Hello everybody. In today's video, I'll be analyzing a game between me and a titled player rated 2300, so let's get into the video. So I'm playing with the white pieces, so yeah, let's get into it. So the game started e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. Just normal stuff so far, and here I have some stuff that I can do. I can go here, I can go here. I could even castle, which isn't recommended because castling too early is normally not ideal. But I go d3. I've started experimenting with d3, and the idea of d3 is that you're not committing your knight out yet, but you can also kind of defend this pawn to make sure there's no fork tricks. If he brings out the knight, you can just bring out the knight, and then you can play for like bishop e3, maybe even bishop g5 down the road, which is what happened in the game. So here, my opponent played a6. Now, when I saw this at first, I was like, this is kind of a weird move, but the idea is basically just to stop this knight a4 idea, because I like to play knight a4 actually, and just kind of pick up this bishop. Now, if a6 was not played and instead he played something like d6, for example, or castles kingside, I could play knight a4, and he'd have to retreat the bishop back. Now it isn't too good a move, but say I was to go bishop d2, for example, he played d6. Now, knight a4 is actually a good move, because now the bishop cannot go back along this diagonal because of the pawn. Can't go anywhere along here, so it just has to go back and then takes. And some people like to play this way because they're conserving their bishop pair. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and the idea is after he takes, you sometimes go a3 or a4 to bring the bishop back, so he doesn't do the exact same thing to you. But anyway, a6 was played, and so I played bishop g5. Now the idea of bishop d5 was just pretty simple. It's just the classic knight and queen pin. You can bring your knight in and just try to put some pressure. In hindsight, I think it might have been better either to castle kingside, or I could have even played knight d5 in this position. I was thinking of bishop e3, but I wasn't so sure because he could just always play takes, and I mean, it's kind of an imbalanced position. He can play, it's still a game. D6, castles, kingside, bishop out, you know. But instead, he played h6. I retreated my bishop back. Kind of the first inaccuracy of the game. You can see the eval bar kind of go down there. The computer says I should take, which is kind of weird. I've never felt the inclination to take in these kind of positions. You don't really just want the queen out, and the idea is if you play knight d5, you gain a tempo after queen d8, which I suppose makes sense. Yeah. And then you can go c3, maybe queen b3, queen c2, castles queenside or kingside, and you kind of get the luxury of choice there. But I played bishop h4 after h6, so d6 was played. To be honest, I feel like g4 might have been a bit better, just pushing it back immediately, but he's better, he can take his time. d6. d6 is also just freeing the bishop, you know, no problems with knight a4 because the bishop can just retreat back to a7 or wherever he wants it to go. So I played h6, h3. And so the point of this was to prevent any of these bishop b4 ideas, and maybe also make a shelter for my bishop down the road if this pawn storm ever happens, you know. So g5, bishop g3, and knight a5. Yeah, I kind of just walked into that one. Like, I didn't take the time to save my light-squared bishop, so I just retreated back, takes. But now you can kind of see the position is equal, and the reason the position is equal was actually better to push on this side of the board, because this side of the board was basically not too bad, but he's still slightly better, and he went queen e7. Queen e7 is a very handy move. So, one, it just basically makes it so that immediately after you move this bishop, you can have the choice of long castling. Obviously, castling short is not a good idea here because there's just so much mayhem going on and there's a lot of exposures. And if white can survive this attack, then there might even be trouble for the black king down the road. So, queen e7 was played, and I played queen d2. Not the best move. Not the best move. I definitely could have played something like d4 here. d4 is like a really standard pattern. What I was afraid of is after d4, ex d4, knight d4. I thought knight e4 was a thing because of the queen here, but it turns out after knight d5, I'm just completely fine. There's nothing to worry about. And knight c3 check, and I can just take the queen, obviously, so there's no problem with that. So that's the good thing about taking like this. And even though he's a clean pawn up, it doesn't matter because after queen d8, I have b4, stuff like b4. I could play queen e2. You know, just try to keep playing. So instead, what happened was queen d2, and Queen d2 is not a good move for a few reasons. One, it's kind of slow. d4 is a much more dynamic move, and in this kind of position where like the pawns are trying to attack on the king side, you don't want the bishop to just have free reign on this diagonal. Could cause some problems later in the game. So c6. Now c6 is a really calm move. I really like this move for a few reasons. One, you're prepping d5. You can't play it at the moment, but some things can always be prepared. Bishop e6 could be on the way. So I castled. This, in my opinion, was probably one of the turning points of the game. Castling right into this pawn storm is not a good idea. In fact, castling queenside is actually more accurate here. Because, say after bishop b4, for example, or knight h5, just to try to pick up this bishop, this king is completely safe. I actually thought of this move during the game, but I did not like the idea of this open file. I was like, okay, what if he goes queen c7, queen a5, here, what am I going to do? But the truth is, any kind of attack that he tries to brew up is just too slow. I could move my queen, you know, like bring my king, and I'm safe. I'd be safe in the middle of the board because now I'm surrounded by both of my rooks and everything is centered around me. While when I wasn't castled, everything was kind of disconnected. And at the same time, to be honest, like castling queenside, it buys me some time. And this attack might never actually happen if I don't castle kingside to begin with, so I'm just kind of saving myself. So I castled. He thought for a bit and played knight h5. And this is the best move by far. And the reason why knight h5 is good now is one, because if now bishop h2, g3 to prevent knight f4 is never actually that good a move. And you're actually supposed to let it be taken here. Just kind of go like, say, I'm just going to play a random move like rook a1, for example. Takes... Actually, you can't take back. But the point of this is that now g3 to protect this f4 square is not a good idea because now this pawn is weak and the bishop can swoop in. And it isn't too big a deal when my king is in the middle, but when my king is actually castled, it is a big deal. That's why knight h5 was so much better now. So you had to kind of wait it out a little, and I missed it. So I played bishop h2. And at this point, I'm just kind of defending. I'm just kind of, you know, he's setting the tone for the game, and I'm just kind of listening to whatever is happening on the board, and I'm just kind of reacting. So I'm in a tough spot here for sure. So what happened next was g4. g4 is another good move. The point of g4 is that if you take, he goes bishop takes. You don't want your knight to be taken, actually. But if you were to do something like d4, ed, knight d, then queen g5 would come in. And now it's even worse, because if you take, then this is taken. The knight's hanging, and he has this monster of a rook here. If you play something like queen d3, for example, then he's just gonna play bishop d4, and all of a sudden your queen is really now your queen is kind of distance here, and there's like a few good moves that you could play here. One actually really disgusting move is bishop f3, and you can't take. You can't take because after king d7 or king e7, now your queen's under attack. You don't have any checks, and you just have to kind of try to defend yourself. You have to let your queen be taken, and then after this and you can't even play this kind of move because knight takes here, and you forget that you have a rook on this rank. So that's a really nice attack that could happen if I play this position wrong. So this is already a really volatile position. I have to be careful here. So after g4, I didn't really like the idea of taking, and I played d4 instead. And this is kind of aggressive. You know, you're kind of giving a counterattack. You're like, okay, I know I might be worse here. I know I am worse here. But this bishop could cause problems if I keep it on the board, and it's best to not keep it on the board, so let's swap it off. And now the eval bar is going even lower. Why? Because, uh, well, first of all, this pawn is going to be taken. The rook is going to come in, and I have to defend myself like no tomorrow. I'll probably have to give up a few pawns just to keep myself alive, and even then, it's no guarantee of whether I'll have a good game or not. I'll definitely lose in the end game unless I play this really carefully. DXC5. DXC5 is actually bringing back the equality of the game. This is a bit too slow. Instead, the computer recommends Rook G8, which is kind of unfindable. Like, finding Rook G8 is crazy, but the point is, you don't want to weaken your position. Like, for example, if this move happens, then you can just swoop in with Queen H4. This is hanging, this is hanging, maybe an even potential sacrifice down the road if you have more pieces. So after DXC5, the best move was Rook FD1. Trying to, get this open file, trying to get some of your pieces out of danger. But instead, I play Queen E3. And Queen E3 isn't a terrible move, but it's not the best move either. What I was trying to achieve by playing Queen E3 was I keep an eye on this pawn, I keep an eye on that pawn, and I keep an eye on that pawn. All potential targets. I also try to anchor myself to this pawn in case this bishop and queen try to go attack it. FXG2. FXG2 is a bit too soon for FXG2. And this is kind of the turning point of the game here. To be honest with you, this was not the best moment. This is an equal position right now. It looks crazy, but it's an equal position. Black has some positional weaknesses here. This bishop is really nice. This rook is hanging. The king is in the middle of the board. If white can survive this attack, it's going to be okay for white. Like, I don't think white can lose this if white plays this perfectly. But you have to be very careful here. So there's only really two moves that I considered. One was Rook FD1, and one was King takes G2. And one of them is better, and one of them loses on the spot. And I played the wrong one. And this is kind of like sometimes the problem with how I play is like, I'm like, okay, I played this move. He doesn't really have a knockout punch. I'm gonna stay in the game. What could happen? But really, it's easy to just forget that your opponent is 2300 and can easily blow you off the board if you make the smallest mistake. And yeah, so I exposed my king. Rook FD1 was the right move because now, you know what they say in chess, right? Your opponent's pawn is the best defender because this pawn can never be taken by any of his pieces. And even though I'm 2 points down, I'm still okay because, for example, if he goes queen here, I could always either play something like Rook D3, or even if I wanted to play something like this, right? Like, you can actually sack a rook here, and then aim for some kind of compensation. Like, this is all right. Like, the funny thing is, I might actually be the one who has to be careful because of Queen H1. So this is a wild position after Rook FD1. So even if I did find Rook FD1, would I have survived? We don't know. We'll never know unless I get the exact same position in some other game. But I played King G2, and from here it's all downhill. So my opponent here thought for a while and played Bishop D7. Now this is a simul actually, so there were a lot of other games. I believe there were 5 other games other than mine. So he was going around and he thought for a while at my board, and then he played Bishop D7. Now Bishop D7, the problem with Bishop D7 is it isn't fast enough. You're not taking advantage of the exposed king. What was better is just to play Rook G8. Now, would I have found that? Probably not. Like, I was scared of Rook G8, but I didn't think it was the right move. I thought you just play it safe. You maybe even play, like, Queen here or something. But Bishop D7 is played. And at this point here, like, is it really a place where I can get out of? Is the evaluation really true? And so here I was thinking of two moves. I was thinking of rook g1 and rook h1. Now, rook g1 is by far the better move because now you're active. You can crawl your king away and your rook will take the open file. But I elected for rook h1 for one reason and one reason only. I did not want to lose this pawn. I was already a pawn down, and I figured, okay, well, if I play bishop g3, I move my king away, I have a defender of this pawn. And maybe I could even play something like bishop g1 to make sure I maintain both of the defenders on this pawn and I'm not going to lose it. And he castled queenside. And this is the best move in the position. You're connecting the rooks. And here I thought for a while, I was like, I wasn't sure how to evaluate the position. I was like, okay, well, what's happening here? What can I do about it? Am I losing? Am I okay? Is my king safe? What are my pieces doing? And I thought for like 10 minutes here, and I played knight a4. And the point of knight a4 is really simple. You're just trying to either get to b6, simplify so you don't get, your king doesn't get attacked, or you're trying to pick up this pawn and kind of settle down the material a little so you can go into the endgame and actually have a good chance of drawing. So rook h g8 check was played. I went king f1, and then queen g5. And queen g5 is a very tricky move. Now, if I trade, this move can happen. There's no fancy tricks with block because of the rook. King e2 is like the only move to stay alive, and then he's just gonna take back the queen. And I'm worse. Like, I'm not losing, but I'm worse. And is it hard to find a good solution out of this? Absolutely. And I can just play this, but it isn't easy, Like, I have some positional problems, too. f6 is a move, I don't know if knight f4 works. Oh, no, it doesn't work. Okay. But the point is, actually, I can't take this bishop because he'll take my knight. That's actually cool. But really, the point of this move was just to simplify and try to just beat me in the endgame. Because if I entered an endgame like this, I would be way worse. And this bishop, these two rooks are very well connected. My king is getting in the middle of everything. These two rooks have not seen each other for a while. And queen f3. I opted not to trade, which is not a bad move. I'm still alive in the game. But knight f4 was a really nice move here. And again, another one of those critical moments. Do I trade? Do I keep the knight on? Do I keep the pieces on? Do I hope for the best? I again made a bad decision and traded off the bishop. This is losing, and then he played a really nice move, e takes f6, e takes f4. And the point of e takes f4 is, well, this pawn may look weak, but it has a queen and potentially two rooks to defend it. And this queen is doing defense. Like, it can't attack and defend at the same time. Like, it's either this and this pawn, or take this pawn. So really, this was a good move. Now, if queen takes f4, it doesn't have the same effect, because after trading, you can just play something like, for example, knight takes c5. And this is a completely equal position. Black is slightly better, but it shouldn't have any real problems. Play this accurately, and it should be a draw. But e takes f4 obviously was played instead. I went king e2, just to kind of connect the rooks. Try to give some attack here. And then queen e5. I didn't know why queen a5 was played. It kind of confused me a little. I feel like this move was... I was thinking of that move. I was scared of that move. But queen e5, and I'm still worse for sure. And here the only move to kind of maintain a respectable position is knight b6. The idea is after king c7, you take... sorry, no, you don't take there. You play knight c4... You try to anchor this down, you attack the queen, and after this move, you play queen c3, which is like, oh my god. Like, if you take, you're fine, because the queen was the main problem of the position, and your king is centralized, and everything's gonna be fine. But if, like, say, queen e7 or something, then you go, I don't know, queen e5, forced to trade, I don't know. But either way, you're supposed to try to just simplify as fast as possible. But I played king f1 because I didn't want the pin, and from here on out it was just one-sided. So king c7 to prevent knight b6. I played knight c3, f5, knight e2. I didn't want to trade, I didn't want to trade because I didn't want to have this like lone pawn and these rooks staring at me, so I went knight e2 instead. He took, I took. We had to trade queens now, so takes. Rook df8. And I played knight e2. Now, the reason I didn't play knight g2 is because now you have rook g3, which is pretty crazy, and you can't take, obviously, and and there's no way to save this pawn unless you play this, but then you just go after it again. With knight e2, there's no longer that problem, because after rook there, you can just take with the knight, and obviously that's just a blunder of a rook, but that's never going to happen. Rook f3 kind of just cramped me down a little. Notice that I can't even move my king outside because this rook is completely cutting me off. I went knight g1. He went rook f6. I went king e2. I was just trying to free myself at this point. And then rook g2, rook f1. Like, look at me. I'm just completely boxed in. Like, nothing can move. If I move I can't even move my knight. I'm gonna lose my knight. I can't move this rook. If I move this rook, I get my pawn taken. So, like, I'm in a kind of zugzwang here. Probably the only viable move is, like, c3 or something. But after that, that's gonna run out, too. So, h5 just to advance that pawn. I went king e3 just to kind of let the knight out and maybe take his pawn in the future. h4, knight e2, rook f3. And here, I took the pawn. He took the pawn with his rook, and I went knight f4, and I'm like, ha, I'm so smart. But he took my rook, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Like, yeah, and then I just took back. He took the pawn here, and, what else is there to be done? Like, this knight protects this pawn, but if the rook comes in, there's no way to save it. And he's already up another pawn on this side. He's already up 2 pawns on that side of the board. So I went knight d3. He took the pawn there, and I went rook there. And it's kind of unfortunate, because if this king was on a dark square, it couldn't be checked, and this move would have won the pawn. But, unfortunately, bishop g2... I went king e3, and he pushed the pawn, and this is game over, because I probably have to give up my rook or one of my pieces, and I'm already at a pawn minority over here. So I went rook f2, I took with the king. If you take with the knight, he just pushes, and there's nothing you can do. So I took with the king, and then he found this nice move, bishop e4. I was actually expecting him to go here to threaten the pawns, but after that, you can just go here, takes, and you're still losing, but bishop e4 is the cleanest way to wrap up the game. And this is a nice trick, because if I try to save my knight, he pushes, and the way the chessboard is made, this bishop cuts off this, and I can't go here to stop the pawn promotion. So I went king g3 instead, gave up my knight, takes, and then bishop c2. This pawn is lost. He's gonna push. My king's too far away, and I resigned. So yeah, that was that. It was a good game, very instructive game. You know, kind of reminded me. It was a humbling game for sure. Like, I tried to play as well as I could, and he just kind of destroyed me. So, definitely a good game, but definitely a lot to learn from. Yeah. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. See you.